Now, when you subscribe to somebody and then you go to your homepage, sometimes YouTube will recommend older videos from channels that you've only recently subscribed to. And as such, I was alerted to a video called MGTOW is Becoming Cult-like and Ideological. Now, this is from March of this year, so it's fairly old. I just didn't know about it. Nobody forwarded it to me. I haven't watched it. But as I started to watch it, I was like, okay, let me see what his point is. And wow, yeah, he missed it. And I'm not surprised. I mean, he's an egalitarian, so of course he's not going to understand MGTOW. So I thought I would respond to his video point by point. So let's get started. Now, if you watch the video, the first 4 minutes and 19 seconds aren't anti-MGTOW. In fact, he actually sets the stage regarding how gynocentric society has become. If you only listen to the first 4 minutes and 19 seconds, you would sympathize with MGTOW. But then, for whatever reason, because, well, I know why, I'll talk to that in a minute, but he takes a very hard turn against MGTOW right after 4 minutes and 19 seconds.
So I think it's clear to see that our society is more than a little gynocentric. And I think there are very understandable reasons why many men wish to opt out of society and go their own way, avoiding the skewed gender dynamics in relationships and dating and choosing a life of bachelorhood. In a recent Armored Skeptic video, which I recommend you check out, Skeptic criticized renowned MGTOW, the mayor of MGTOWN.
Alright, so in this video, Armored Skeptic, and you have to understand the purpose of that video. It wasn't to present a clear, focused view on what MGTOW was, what MGTOW believes. It was to pick on the low-hanging fruit. So he featured two channels. The Mayor of MGTOWN, who has 5,651 subscribers at the time of this recording, and Sexy MGTOW, who has 1,820 subscribers. Not Barbarossa, that has over 25,000, not Stardust, who has over 20,000, not Sandman, who has over 60,000, these very small, niche channels. Now, I'm kind of surprised. Maybe I haven't watched the whole video. Maybe he mentioned Sexy MGTOW towards the end. But Sexy MGTOW is a proud racist. I don't agree with his racism, but I don't let that get in the way of what we do agree with. So just because Mayor of MGTOWN and Sexy MGTOW are MGTOW, it doesn't mean the entire community agrees with everything they say, and you can see how, quote, mainstream their ideas are based on how big they are in the community. Sexy MGTOW and Mayor of MGTOWN are not that big in the community. But I just wanted to set the stage to this great video that Armored Skeptic did.
I hadn't previously seen any of the mayor's content, but having watched the video that Skeptic rebutted, I was honestly pretty shocked. Mayor describes his journey to being MGTOW as being motivated by having a difficult upbringing by his mother. He then proceeds...
I had a very abusive, selfish, kind of cunt of a mother growing up. But that didn't make me a MGTOW. In fact, in my younger years, I was kind of a simp. Boys who are raised by single mothers are brainwashed. You see this very acutely in the black community, where these men, grown black men, worship black women as God. You have these black women literally running around saying that they're God, and black men are worshiping them because they were brainwashed by their single mothers. Single mothers that abused and neglected them. Now, as you shake off that brainwashing as you're an older person, you go through what's called the red pill rage, when you realize you've been lied to your whole life. It's a traumatic experience. Now, hopefully in time, you get over it, you accept it, you move forward. But anger is a very natural and healthy part of that process. But anyway, just moving on.
Proceeds to describe women as good for sex and little else. He doesn't actually explore the challenges facing men in a gynocentric society or how difficult the dating scene has become for them.
Alright, so in this video that Mayor of MGTOWN did, he's just talking about how he doesn't really date seriously, he just dates women to have sex with them. Not every video that a MGTOW puts out on his channel has to be deep philosophical treatise about the plight of men in a gynocentric society. I mean, you look at my channel, I have all kinds of videos. All kinds of videos. Some of them are playful, some of them are just straight up weird, some of them are about video games. I could just imagine someone going through my channel being like, oh, TFM, he's a MGTOW. Well, here's a video of him talking about spears and zombies. And here's a video of him shilling butt plugs. Oh my gosh, that's what MGTOW's really about, isn't it? No. No, not everything a MGTOW talks about has to be about the core things. This is why I highly recommend, if you don't know what MGTOW is, go check out Sandman's channel. Sandman has very surface-level, basic introductory videos, and he puts one out every single day, and he even takes viewer requests. He is like the kindergarten teacher of MGTOW, so if you know nothing about MGTOW, just go to Sandman. He has 60,000 subs. He's much more representative of what MGTOW is than Mayor of MGTOW or Sexy MGTOW, but of course he doesn't give you those juicy sound bites so you can just roundly criticize and denounce the entire group.
It's genuinely unsettling listening to him speak about this stuff.
Oh, fucking boo-hoo. Oh, I'm so unsettled, I'm triggered, what a pussy.
While the word misogyny is bandied around far too liberally by radical feminists nowadays, it actually applies to the mayor's video. He even...
Yeah, see what I'm saying? Oh, he's using women for sex. Oh, he hates women. Oh, he doesn't want to have a deep relationship. Why don't you present an argument of what women actually bring to the table? Why don't you have a little chalkboard and write all the things down that a woman can do to enhance a man's life?
goes so far as to describe women as the enemy. How ideological can you get?
I don't hate women. I don't call women the enemy. In fact, I've said on numerous occasions, women aren't the problem, the system is the problem. But not everybody is so even-handed. You know, this video should have been called The Mayor of MGTOW is Ideological. Then I would have probably agreed with you. But your video is called MGTOW is Becoming Cult-Like and Ideological. And you use one video about one channel, which isn't even that big, to try to represent all of MGTOW as being cult-like and ideological because they only want to use women for sex. There are so many MGTOW. In fact, it's a very huge contingent of MGTOW don't even engage with women at all. They're called MGTOW monks. You probably have never heard of it because there hasn't been a clickbaity video for you to watch. But a lot of MGTOW just swear off all relationships with women. They avoid women, they don't talk to them, they don't have sex with them, they just avoid them. What misogynist, right? What misogynist?
He also says that many men are MGTOW but don't know it. As Skeptic states, that's no different to feminists who say that if you're for equality, you're a feminist. Feminists also criticize other non-feminist women by saying that if you're not a feminist, then you must have internalized misogyny. I've seen MGTOWs do exactly the same thing. When I say things like not all women are gold-digging hypergamists, I'm told I'm being a white knight blue pillar and that I'm no-alting. You can't win with ideological thinking like that.
Alright. Now here's the thing about NEWALT. All women have hypergamy. It's an instinct. It's the instinct that all women have. It's tied to their sexual reproductive instincts. Now, not all women exercise their hypergamy because they don't have the option. Some women are ugly. Some women are in a society where they're not free to exercise their hypergamy. Maybe divorce is illegal. Maybe being a divorcee means you're going to die alone. So they don't divorce. They don't break up with their boyfriend as long as he's a decent guy, because they'll face social consequences. These are the protections that were built into patriarchal societies to protect men and society from hypergamy. But as we've liberated women in the name of equality, women have gone buck wild. They're free to just dump guys for other guys, and they're free to just whore around and be gold diggers, and they're empowered to do so, and you know that. They're like, oh, not all women act on their hypergamy. I will admit, not all women act on their hypergamy. But you never know when they will. You're going to trust them? You're going to put your balls in their hands and just trust that they won't? Because they can. And society encourages it. So you're just stupid to act that way. Now I will present the male version of hypergamy, which is dominance. Men have a dominance instinct. It's related to hypergamy. The men compete with each other for resources, try to dominate other men to get to the top of the pyramid so they can attract the most desirable women. Meanwhile, women are attracted to resources and utility. They seek out the men with the most resources and who can provide the most utility who are at the top of the pyramid. So both of these instincts tie into each other. Men are dominant, women are hypergamous. Now, putting aside women, all men have a dominance instinct. Now, are all men dominant? Clearly not. You have beta fucking pussies who they couldn't dominate their way out of a wet paper bag. But they still have that dominance instinct. They may take it out in other ways, maybe being internet trolls or trying to get good at video games so they can dominate the leaderboard. There's ways that men who are otherwise not dominant to exercise their dominance instinct. They just may not be physically capable, given their circumstances or whatever, to exercise their dominance in a more traditional way. Women have hypergamy. It's an instinct. They have the hypergamy instinct even if they can't exercise it. That's what MGTOW mean when they say all women are like that. And to point out that not all women exercise their hypergamy doesn't disprove that any more than saying there are some beta pussies out there who can't exercise their dominance, thus men are not dominant. There is no dominance instinct in males, which is clearly false.
Now, before you go commenting below with, Dave, I'm MGTOW and I don't hate women and I don't subscribe to the mayor's philosophy, remember that like any identity politics movement online, the members within it are sadly often judged by the actions of the lowest, most fringe practitioners of the movement. The idea that men are opting out of relationships in society because of how feminized it's become is not the fault of women. It's the fault of the ideologies that are driving society to behave that way.
Yeah, the ideologies that are driving women to behave that way is equality. And what's funny is you, as a member of the skeptic / anti-feminist / egalitarian community, you are responsible for that. Now, I notice you did some videos attacking Sargon of Akkad as a Marxist, he's in the same community. He's in the same community as you. And yet you have these disagreements. Oh my gosh, why aren't you all being judged by the lowest common denominator of your community? If Sargon of Akkad is a Marxist, well obviously all anti-feminist skeptics are Marxist. All egalitarians are Marxist, because Sargon said something and he represents the entire community, right? Clearly not. So if you can understand that you and Sargon can have different views on things, even though you belong to the same community, why don't you pull your head out of your ass and realize that not all MGTOW agree on everything either? But no, we're just like the feminists. And the reason why you're saying that is because you're an egalitarian. Because feminists since the third wave have not been egalitarian, and because MGTOW is not egalitarian, we're just like the feminists. So you're the one being ideological. Because your ideology is your egalitarianism, your equality, and you're actually part of the problem and you don't even know it. The ideologies that brought us to this point have everything to do with the push for female equality. The more we make women equal, the more the shit just goes downhill. The answer is not more equality, because you can't make females equal to males because of biology. It just doesn't work. If you make the laws equal, you're going to have unequal outcomes. The women are going to cry and be like, boo-hoo-hoo, I didn't get my equal outcome. I want equal outcomes, daddy. And you're going to be like, okay, princess, and you're going to give her their equal outcomes. That's how it always happens. You either embrace inequality and freedom, or you don't. And what is egalitarianism built on but equality? Now sure, it starts with equality before the law, which I agree with. Let's get things straight. I do agree with equality before the law. But once you get into equality of rights, equality of opportunities, you inevitably slide to equality of outcomes. And I talked about this in a video called Defining Egalitarianism. You have this negative versus positive rights. Negative rights keep things from happening to you. Positive rights are things that must be given to you. There was no such concept of positive rights a while ago. Positive rights are a fairly new concept. And really what it is, it's equality of outcomes painted as equal rights. So you can say, I believe in equal rights. We'll say, oh, you believe in equal rights? Well, here, positive rights. Now you have to believe in this because you believe in equal rights. And they hijack the term equal rights to mean equality of outcomes through positive rights. You can say, I just believe in equal opportunity. Everyone should have a fair chance to achieve whatever, but the outcomes aren't guaranteed. And then people say, well, how can you believe in equal opportunity when we have different starting places? It's not fair. We have to have the same starting place if we're going to have equal opportunity. So you must be in favor of equal outcomes. We have to redistribute things. We have to treat people differently to make sure we all start at the same place because some people are privileged and so forth. And you get to equal outcomes. Once you go past equality before the law, once you get into equal rights, equal opportunity, you inevitably end in equal outcomes. And that is the problem with egalitarianism. And the other thing is these egalitarian, quote-unquote, anti-feminists are only against third-wave feminism. They have no problem with women voting. They have no problem with all the bullshit from second-wave feminism. It's only with third-wave feminism in the 90s that they have a problem with. So 2/3 of the entire movement they agree with. If you believe in 2/3 of an ideology, you're not an opponent of that ideology. But of course you don't see that, because MGTOW are the ones who are just like feminists.
It seems some MGTOWs just refuse to recognize that there are female MRAs out there who staunchly oppose the feminization of the West and rail against feminism at every turn. But those women don't fit into the MGTOW narrative that all women are the enemy, as...
No, okay, alright. I did a video about female MRAs. Where were these female MRAs during first and second wave feminism? Why are they only showing up in third wave feminism as men are walking away? As MGTOW is growing. Now the female MRAs are showing up. Oh guys, I hate feminism too. Don't walk away. I need someone to take care of me when I get old. Where were you before? Where were you when no-fault divorce was being passed? Were you railing in the streets fighting feminism then? No. This is big picture, and I know all you egalitarians are not going to see what I see. But big picture, when feminism oversteps its bounds, which it has with third wave feminism and now fourth wave intersectional feminism, it's just getting crazy stupid. So here come the anti-feminist, skeptic, egalitarian women, and they are there to basically backstop first and second wave feminism. To say, we need to stop third wave feminism. Feminism's gone too far, but let's stop it here, right at second wave feminism. Everything second wave feminism, gee, let's keep that. I want to keep all that stuff, but let's undo all this stuff. And then that seems reasonable. That seems like a compromise. They got almost to the finish line, and then they want to stop. Like as soon as the men start fighting back, they're like, oh wait guys, I agree with you. Let's stop it. Let's stop it right here. Because they don't want the men to push all the way back. They don't want men to push back second wave and first wave feminism and undo all the bullshit. They just want to undo the 90s. Oh, wasn't that terrible, guys? Oh, now that we defeated feminism, now we're all equal. We'll never be equal. We weren't equal in the 80s. We weren't equal in the 70s or 60s or 50s. We'll never be equal as long as we are biologically different, as long as sexual reproduction and sexual dimorphism exist, we will never be equal. So all the anti-feminists do is they trick you into thinking that they are against feminism when they are only against third wave feminism. And seriously, where were you? Where were you this whole time? You just show up now at the 11th hour.
As the mayor so dramatically puts it. I can totally understand men who opt out because they recognize how skewed the system is, but that's no reason to blame these issues on 51% of the Earth's population. This
Okay, again, women aren't the problem. The system is the problem. And what am I talking about when I say the system? When we gave women rights, that was the problem. When we let them go buck wild. Societies throughout history have kept hypergamy in check through various laws and social customs, which have all been eroded in the name of equality and empowering and liberating women. They're all gone. And now you see the consequences of this all around you. Is that women's fault? Women haven't changed. Women have not become evil. They've always been that way. They've just been checked by society and social customs, and now they're allowed to be as crazy as they want. I compare them in a couple videos to children and dogs. Now before you get upset, let me explain what I'm talking about. When you have a spoiled child, it's not the child's fault, it's the parent's fault. The parents have not been controlling their children, the child grows up to be a spoiled brat, it's the parent's fault. When you have a pet that isn't trained, that jumps on the furniture, that pees and shits on everything and chews everything up, it's not the dog's fault or the cat's fault or the animal's fault. It's the owner's fault for not training the pet. So when MGTOW complain about women, they're almost as much victims as men are. It's just that they're benefiting from it, just like the spoiled child is benefiting. But in the long run, just think of the spoiled child. So this child grows up in this house where they get everything they want and they're spoiled, rotten brat. Eventually they're going to grow up and become an adult. And because they didn't receive a proper upbringing, they're going to be terrible, shitty adults. And they're going to be unhappy and miserable in their adult life once mommy and daddy aren't there to give them what they want all the time. It's the same thing with women. In the long run, gynocentrism does not benefit women. But in the short run, they're happy, they're getting what they want, and that's all they think about, that's all they care about. It's not up to the women to change society. It's up to the men to change society. Men are the parents in this scenario. It's up to men to take charge.
Level of misogyny is exactly what third wave feminists are feeding off of. As I've mentioned in a previous video, is it not better to simply label yourself as a rationalist rather than a MGTOW?
No, because rationalists are egalitarian by and large. Now, maybe there are rationalists who advocate for the return to a patriarchy or the stripping away of females' voting rights in order to get the country back on track. I don't know. If there are, I haven't met them. I haven't heard of them. Let me know if there are. But from what I've seen, the skeptic, rationalist community is a bunch of egalitarians. And as such, you are not an ally to someone like me, who sees egalitarianism and female liberation and equal rights as the problem, the root cause. Even if it's well-intentioned, it is what is causing these problems.
If you find a great girl out there who gets it and is rational in her thinking also, has similar goals and values to yourself, what more do you want?
Oh, she's still hypergamous. And the laws are there to give her every incentive to fuck you over at any time for any or no reason. A woman's loyalty is inversely proportional to her options. Now, if you find a woman who's over the hill, who's in her 40s or 50s, who's ugly and she hit the wall at full speed, oh yeah, she's all yours. She'll be so happy and pleased with you. You know, she's all yours, buddy. Go get her. And maybe you'll have very scintillating conversations and she'll be very rational. If that's what you want, go for it. Now, if you're looking for a young, attractive woman to make babies with and have sex with, you're really rolling the dice. Because the more attractive she is, the more options she has, the less loyal she is. And she can fuck you over at any time. And the laws are getting worse and worse by the year. Yes means yes was the straw that broke the camel's back to me. Because the last thing I need is a woman filing regret rape charges on me. So that was it for me. Now, obviously, every man has their line. Eventually, things are going to be so dangerous and risky for men to engage with women, they're just not going to. MGTOW is just the tip of the iceberg. The more these laws get worse, the more risk a man takes on, eventually the sex isn't worth it. You're just going to have two kinds of men. You're going to have the men who walk away from women because they value their freedom and their money too much. Or you're going to have these men like the male black widow that just goes in, gets laid, and just gets devoured. You're going to run out of those guys pretty quick. And then all that's going to be left is the first group. And they're not going to be fucking around with these women, and then your society is going to go extinct because nobody's having babies, which is what you see happening with the fertility rates in the West.
But I see MGTOWs all the time saying women can't be rational and that they don't exist. So I take...
No one's talking about rationality. Women can be rational. They may not have higher IQs than men on average, but they can be sufficiently rational to hold a conversation. That's not the problem. MGTOW isn't like, women aren't rational. No, it's women are hypergamous. Society is gynocentric. Relationships are dangerous. At no point is rationality even brought up into the discussion. You're just substituting words. You don't want to talk about hypergamy, so you're talking about rationality.
Take it that means there's no happily married men and women out there.
Sure, there are happily married men and women. I would say there's more happily married women, and there's more so men that are just trying to make it one more day because they have to keep their woman happy or the woman's going to destroy his life. And maybe he makes the most of his situation and he's content enough to find happiness in his situation. But he's not like, oh man, this is the greatest thing ever. I just can't imagine doing anything else. Now, are there men like that? Sure. There are men who love to be married, even in a gynocentric society. There's also men who like to lick buttholes and get fucked by clowns.
So there's no point in trying. It'll all end in failure. What a self-defeating attitude.
Well, 50% of marriages end in divorce. So this isn't like, oh, you could win, you could do it, you could be in the top 50. You could. That's absolutely true. Maybe you won't be happy, but you could absolutely avoid divorce. Congratulations, you avoided divorce. Now you're just a wage slave to this woman, and if you piss her off, she can leave you and take your shit, your children, and destroy your life. You win. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's not a matter of self-defeat. It's a matter of a rational, let's use your word, a rational appraisal of the situation, a weighing of the costs and benefits and the risk, and making a rational decision that it's not worth it. You may call that defeat. I look at it as the only way to win the game is not to play.
Of course, I know I'll get comments on this video saying things like, Dave, you don't get MGTOW. This is a misrepresentation of the movement.
Dave, you don't get MGTOW. This is a misrepresentation of the movement.
MGTOW is a statement of ownership, etc.
MGTOW is a statement of ownership, etc.
Funny thing is that feminists also say the same thing.
Oh, because feminists, we're just like the feminists. MGTOW and feminists, pretty much the same thing because they're not egalitarian anymore. At least not feminist. I don't know if MGTOW... Well, MGTOW used to be egalitarian too. MGTOW actually started as an offshoot of the MRM. The only thing MGTOW and feminism have in common is rejection of traditional gender roles. Women, through feminism, have rejected their gender role, and they're just destroying society, and men are like, I'm not going to jump on that grenade to keep society going. Women are nice and free, and they're fucking everything up. And then you want men to just keep getting married, keep having kids, keep society going. Doesn't matter if it destroys your life. Doesn't matter if it makes you miserable. Just do it. Because it's for the greater good. And MGTOW says no. And that makes us just like the feminists. The feminists are destroying society, they've destroyed the family, and because MGTOW don't just want to pretend that that didn't happen, that makes us just as bad as the feminists. And if you weren't so blinded by your ideology, which is egalitarianism, you would see that. But it's just projection. Oh, MGTOW are the ideological ones. MGTOW are the ones like the feminists. Meanwhile,
You obviously don't know what feminism means. It's about equality, don't you know? The truth is,
feminism is about equality, equality of outcomes. It always comes down to equality of outcomes once you move past equality before the law. So feminists aren't lying. They're for equality. They're for equality of outcomes.
feminists themselves can't agree on what exactly their movement is about. One feminist will say that it's one thing, another will say that it's something else. MGTOWs make very similar noises, and
Oh, so you have an ideology that says one thing, but they don't all agree, kind of like the skeptic community, like you and Sargon having arguments about socialism and Marxism. Oh, you're just like the feminists. Feminists can't agree. You got these egalitarian skeptics. Some of them promote Marxism. Some of them are libertarian. They don't seem to agree. Oh, they're just like the feminists. You see how easily that can be used against your community too? Your ideology isn't different than any other ideology. You're not like on this high, oh, I'm a skeptic, I'm a rationalist, so automatically I'm just more rational than everyone else because I have rational in the name of my ideology. You're not more rational. You're just as biased. You're just as ideological. And every argument you can throw at MGTOW's feet about how ideological and cult-like we are, it could be turned around and thrown right back in your face. Because your community is just like ours. Just like feminism. It's actually a lot closer to feminism than you care to admit. But what are you going to do?
also invoke the no true Scotsman fallacy, saying things like, well, such and such a person, he's not a real MGTOW. Let me explain.
Now, there are MGTOW who say such and such person isn't a real MGTOW. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that one person is a real MGTOW and one person isn't. Now, I will say that I don't agree with everything a MGTOW stands for once you go beyond the basics. Obviously, people have their own individual biases, their own individual politics. They're going to bring that with them, even if they're MGTOW or not MGTOW. Just because someone says they're MGTOW or has a MGTOW channel and puts out MGTOW content doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say. Again, you and Sargon have your disagreements even though you're in the same community.
To you what a real MGTOW is. Again, I come back to, can't we just appeal to traditional, rational principles? Why do we need to slap a label on guys who are bachelors for a while, or who prioritize their career over dating for a few years? Now, I'm not saying that MGTOW is in any way as powerful or influential as modern feminism, but in terms of the cognitive and ideological biases involved here, they're beginning to function in a very similar way.
Yeah, just like the skeptic, rationalist, egalitarian movement. It's just as ideological. In fact, there have been videos about you, Computing Forever, talking about your ideology because you're trying to promote libertarianism. And you're attacking Sargon and all the ideologies, my ideologies.
MGTOWs also make another ideological misstep when they claim that all women are out to simply drain the resources of men and will up and leave when they've drained them dry. Well, it's...
All right. So, again, all women have the hypergamy instinct. Not all women act on their hypergamy. Marriage is a business decision when it comes to women. Women seek out a man who has the resources to provide for them and their children. Do you dispute that? I really hope you don't, because you see it in animals. A male animal that wants to get laid has to appease the woman with gifts of food, show her around his habitat, showing that it's a good place to raise a family. That's what women are attracted to, resources and utility. That's hypergamy. And if a woman finds a better mate that has more resources and more utility, she very likely will dump or divorce her current mate in order to get with him. Now, humans have created these institutions like marriage, monogamy, social shame, in order to keep women from doing that. This is why, as these laws have been changed, you see the erosion of the family and all that other stuff. Women haven't changed. If women were allowed to act the way they are now, hundreds of years ago, they would do it hundreds of years ago. The women of yesteryear are not fundamentally better than the women today. They just live in a different environment. They lived in an environment where their hypergamy was controlled through social pressure and law and force. And now that force is in their hands, where they can exercise their force upon men. They can extract resources through the welfare state, child support, or whatever. They can get resources from men without having to put in any work themselves. And they do it every single day. And while a society built on a patriarchy, where the man controlled the family and the man controlled society, grew and blossomed and created all the wonderful things we enjoy today, a female-controlled matriarchy under feminism and female liberation and empowerment is destroying everything. And once again, men and women are not equal. And it is the pursuit of equality that has brought us to this point.
It's funny because I've dated girls even when I was smashed broke in college. When
Oh my god, so in college, you were dating girls who just wanted to sport fuck? No. Maybe because those women weren't looking to settle down. It's really not that hard to understand. When women are young, maybe in their teens and 20s, they're not looking for a husband. They'll date you, they'll fuck you, if you're hot or cute or you have a car or something that tickles their fancy and makes their pussy wet. Now, once they hit their 30s and their biological clock starts ticking, they will dump the guy they're with if he doesn't have a job or if he's not going places. That's hypergamy. Now, you deny it because, oh, I once had a girlfriend in college that didn't care that I was broke. Yeah, what happened to that girlfriend in college? Who did she end up marrying? Of course, when a woman is young and not thinking about a family, she doesn't care as much about hypergamy. But I did a video myself called She'll Never Love You Confirmed, where I actually had a woman write to me who dumped her boyfriend that she was dating for 3 years. But she was young, you see. She was young and they were just happily together. But then as she got older, she realized this might be the man I'm with the rest of my life. And because he was broke and wasn't going anywhere, she got scared and she fell out of love with him and she dumped him. That's hypergamy. That is hypergamy. And just because they dated for a few years and she didn't mind that he was broke until that moment doesn't make hypergamy non-existent. It doesn't make her into Walt.
feminists tell non-feminist women, if you think you're not affected by patriarchy, then you don't realize how affected by patriarchy you really are. It sounds a lot like the MGTOWs who say, if you think your girlfriend is perfect, just wait. They're all the same shit.
Okay, so feminists talk about a non-existent patriarchy in the middle of a society that's wholly gynocentric. That is completely retarded. You just look at all the rights women have, all the power women have to destroy men's lives. For them to say they're living in a patriarchy is absurd. Meanwhile, when MGTOW warn men about female nature, about the hypergamous instinct, which is real and demonstrable, that, oh, they're the same thing. Same thing. You know, talking about human nature is just like arguing for a non-existent opposite-day patriarchy. Same thing.
She'll eventually turn on you and leave you high and dry.
She may not. She may not turn on you. It depends on if she has options. Again, if you get her nice and fat and ugly, she may not leave you. She may not have anyone better to leave you for. But if she has options, you run a very real risk. If you're not performing to her expectations, you face a very real risk of having your life destroyed. And you have to ask yourself, is that worth it to you? You have absolutely no protections. The state won't have your back. Society won't have your back. Every protection a man once enjoyed to protect himself from that sort of thing has been taken away. But go ahead, marry him, date him, roll those dice, because maybe you'll come up with sevens and you'll never roll snake eyes and she'll just stay loyal to you forever. It could happen. And you could also win the lottery.
You won't see it coming because you are unable to adequately discern the content of a woman's character. This, to me, sounds a lot like projection. In other words, I had a bad relationship experience, so therefore you will too. They all...
Yeah, again, he just... I don't know. I don't even know if I can even finish this video. He's just repeating himself at this point.
also say things like, why should I improve my dating technique or social skills just to appease women? Shouldn't they want me for being exactly how I am?
Who says that? Citation needed, to quote Teal Deer. MGTOW don't care. I mean, you want to improve yourself. I've talked about self-improvement. But self-improvement to try to impress women? Why? And if women don't like you for who you are, who cares? They don't like you for who you are anyway. They're looking for resources and utility. You may be a nice guy, but there's a reason why nice guys are friend-zoned. If that's all you bring to the table, they're not interested. Now, you'd be like, well, why don't you improve yourself? I mean, you could. That's a viable option. If you really want a woman that much, you can improve yourself to try to be a better catch for her. But why? I mean, this is a non-argument. I don't even know. This isn't even like a MGTOW argument. This is like a friend-zone TFL argument. I think you're confusing communities.
Changing myself to appease a woman, that's beta male behavior.
Yeah, it is. That is absolutely beta male behavior. But okay, here we go. We're going to be schooled on how alpha it is to conform to women.
You've got that backwards. Self-improvement is not beta male behavior. It's alpha, if any.
All right, no, self-improvement for a woman is beta male behavior. Self-improvement for your own sake, and then women are attracted to your success, is alpha male behavior. I know it's a very slight distinction that you may not understand, but trust me on this. It's all about the context.
Anything. So in other words, you should never strive or aspire to be the best version of yourself. No.
See, okay, so I'm sure there's a logical fallacy in here somewhere. He starts out talking about how men should not try to improve themselves to attract women, to improve their game. You know, kind of like taking from the PUA. Again, he's kind of merging communities. And then because MGTOW aren't into PUA, we're not into worshipping vagina, trying to play some game just to get laid. We don't give a fuck. We have better things to do. Oh, well, then we're not improving ourselves. Well, what if you're not focusing on game and getting pussy because you're improving yourself in something that's actually meaningful? It destroys this stupid straw man argument he's trying to paint.
Not accepting defeat and picking yourself up off the floor, dusting yourself down, and trying again is how people become successful.
Having a bad relationship or being rejected by a woman and giving up, yeah. I mean, if you're going to give up, whatever. Making a cost-benefit analysis of what women bring to the table, the risks involved, and then not participating in that rigged game is not the same as basically like, girl said no to me, and now my feelings are hurt, and I'm never going to talk to girls again. It's not even remotely the same thing. You know, I don't know if you're into extreme sports, but if someone tried to talk you into base diving or parachuting or doing something kind of like that, and you're like, you know what, I really don't want to do that because if something goes wrong, I could die. And they're like, oh, you're not trying to improve yourself, oh, just because you had one bad experience. Oh, like, no. See, here's the thing. When you're playing a sport or you're doing something competitive and you fail, it's not the end of the world. You can pick yourself up. You can improve yourself. You could try again. A single failed marriage can fuck your world up. And you have no idea if that woman is putting on an act, and as soon as the rings are exchanged, as soon as the honeymoon is over, she's going to fuck your world up. You have no idea if it's an act. You have no idea how genuine it is. You just got to roll the dice. And then one fuck up, and your life is over. Because you're going to be paying alimony the rest of your life. You're going to be in baby jail for 20 years, paying child support. She might give you an STD, and you might die from it. I mean, you don't know. But, you know, you just got to keep trying. She's out there, buddy.
Successful. You know who else indulges in this solipsistic thinking? Overweight, body-positive radical feminists who...
So I actually did an older video about this called TFM's Guide to Sexual Entitlement, where I compared these nice guys to overweight women because they both feel entitled to people outside of their league. None of this really has to do with MGTOW. Nothing he's talking about. So this video called MGTOW is Becoming Cult-Like and Ideological has almost nothing to do with MGTOW. He picked on Mayor of MGTOW, called us misogynists, compared us to feminists, and now he's comparing MGTOW to guys who've been friend-zoned.
Who say, why should I lose weight or shave my underhair arm to attract a man? I want people to be attracted to me just the way I am. People who don't bother looking after themselves or address their own weaknesses are just being lazy and want to blame the rest of the world for their failings.
All right, so hopefully he moves on. But one last note on this subject. So a man improving himself, but not to please women, improving himself in ways that benefits him, include physical fitness. Everyone should be physically fit. Everyone should take care of their body. Now, being physically fit is also attractive, but you're not doing it to attract women. The whole point of this argument that he launched in a few minutes ago, but the problem with the body positive, fat shaming group of feminists is they actually resent not being attractive to men. This is why when an attractive woman is showing skin, it's objectification. But when a fat, ugly woman is running around naked in a protest, that's female empowerment. If men find it attractive, it's objectification. If men find it repulsive, it's empowerment. It's all about how men perceive them. Fat-shaming feminists care deeply about what men think of them. If men found fat attractive, they would be the happiest women in the world. The whole reason they are feminists is because they can't attract men. MGTOW don't care. There are very attractive men in MGTOW who can get all the pussy they want, but they've done the cost-benefit analysis. They've weighed the pros and cons, and women have come up wanting. They don't pass the test. It's too risky to their freedom, to their money, and to their future. It has nothing to do with being fat or unattractive or unable to get laid.
I don't believe MGTOWs who think and behave like the mayor of MGTOW are a positive role model to aspire to. MGTOW isn't some...
And that's why he only has a few thousand subscribers, honestly.
Something to aspire to. It's an unfortunate phase that guys can get mired in, and I can understand why for a period of time, but at some point you have to think, can I do better than this? As I've mentioned previously in the MGTOW End of Civilization video I made, I'm concerned about what the presence of men opting out of society actually means. In the
Alright, I'll tell you what it means. It's going to destroy society, not because MGTOW did anything. MGTOW were trying to survive. Other men can sacrifice themselves to keep society chugging along. But MGTOW see the game. It's inevitable. Society is going to collapse. It's already happening. MGTOW's only like, 100,000 people? But let's say there are 1 million men. That's nothing. 1 million men in a country of billions is not going to make a difference. Because even if 1 million men dropped out, stopped having families, stopped having relationships, men can impregnate many women. There would be many men who would be more than happy to pick up the slack of the 1 million MGTOW who dropped out of society. So, if MGTOW isn't the problem, why are the fertility rates so low? Why are Western countries slowly dying and being replaced by Muslims and immigrants? It's not MGTOW. MGTOW is a symptom. It's a symptom of the gynocentric society, which is dying, and it's inevitable. The only difference between MGTOW and people like you is we've accepted that this is inevitable, and now we're just trying to survive. We don't want to be a statistic in this collapse. We're trying to live the best life we can with the time we have while preparing for the future. And when the end comes, I'm sure people will blame MGTOW, like, oh, MGTOW did this. Fuck you. Equality did this.
Mouse utopia experiment, it ultimately led to the degradation of the mouse society. Could the same thing occur with humans? Well, hopefully not. What's disturbing, though, is the amount of comments I see online saying things like, let society burn, this world is screwed anyway, or something to that effect.
Well, it's true. Equality has ruined society. Now, it doesn't mean the end of the world. As soon as gynocentrism falls, because it needs a government to back it up, women cannot oppress men on their own. They need other men, elite men like the government or the police or the military to enforce feminism against other men. As soon as that goes away, as soon as the government runs out of money, or as soon as they're invaded and things get tough, women will voluntarily submit to men and the patriarchy will be restored. A lot of people will die. A lot of people are going to die. But ultimately, nature will win. The balance will be restored, whether you like it or not, whether MGTOW and feminism like it or not. It's just nature, which of course you reject. But that's not my problem.
I hate to say it, but it's that very self-defeating thinking that will lead to our annihilation eventually.
Ironically, this is coming from someone who calls themselves a rationalist, and at the very end of his video is an appeal to faith. This is Turd Flinging Monkey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.